Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. For over 100 years, University of Vermont Extension has been helping individuals and communities put research-based knowledge to work. Now in its second century, Extension continues to support Vermonters and their families through a variety of education and training programs. One such program is Coping with Separation and Divorce, or COPE. The COPE program teaches parents the skills and provides them the tools to successfully support their children's adjustment to changes in family life. Since its beginnings in 1992, COPE has helped tens of thousands of Vermont families. To learn more, I'm joined by Dean of Extension Doug Lontine. Also with me is the COPE Program Manager, Marcia Bettig. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Doug, what are some of the examples of how UVM Extension supports Vermont families?
Well, although we're here to talk about COPE, it is just one of a series of programs from Prosper, which is a parenting program that we do in Lyndonville and the Camel's Hump schools, in which we're looking to expand statewide and working with state agencies. We have Operation Military Kids, where we're working with the children and the families in the military across the state to provide some support there. To the 4-H program in general, where we're working with schools and nonprofits and others to provide youth with opportunity to interact with caring adults. So there's just any number of things. Becoming an outdoor family with the agency, Forests and Parks, Agency of Natural Resources, Forests and Parks, and others. So there's just this is just one, although a very important one, of a whole group, or I could call it a family of family programs.
Mm-hmm. And so, Marcia, what is COPE?
COPE is an educational seminar, and it takes place throughout the state of Vermont in the county courthouses, and it's required by Vermont judges of parents who have filed at the courts for them to take this class. They've filed for separation and divorce, or parentage actions, or post-judgment situations, or dissolution of a civil union. They're all parents who have minor children and are going about the process of making a lot of decisions and agreements about the family changes. And so that is the primary audience. But we do also welcome people in the community who are interested. We have mediators take it, or lawyers take it, who want to increase their understanding and also know what their clients are hearing. And it's also, sometimes if you're just thinking about separation and divorce, you can take the class and kind of tiptoe in and get a view of what it could be, facing you with your children. And support people are welcome to come in, say a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or someone who is a family friend.
So what's the goal of COPE?
Well, we know that how parents handle the situation of restructuring their family really makes a difference for how the children respond to the situation. And there are a lot of positive actions that parents can take that really increases their kids' security and comfort and acceptance of what's going to be the new normal. So the 4-hour seminar focuses on the children's view of separation and divorce, and participants leave with a much better understanding of what helps children through it and what hurts children. And the parents leave with more confidence with these insights and information. They're better equipped to answer their children's questions and to make their job, basically, as parents much easier and more rewarding, and they can feel more influential on their children's successful adjustment.
Because even some simple things with how they communicate, the parents between each other, separating parents, makes a huge difference on how the children see what's going on in front of them.
Exactly. How secure the children feel as the family life changes.
Mm-hmm. And so who are some of the instructors?
We have 18 instructors throughout the state, and they all have backgrounds in teaching. Many of them come from the field of mediation or counseling and social work. And they're trained professionals. Extension provides supervision and training. And many of them also have personal experience. They may be step-parents or have been co-parents themselves, and they draw from all that background to make the class very real and tangible and provide real-life experiences. And a number of them have been teaching the program since the beginning. They're very loyal to it. They find it extremely rewarding to teach.
And so what are some of the topics that are covered?
We get right in there and talk about the emotional territory. When people are faced with a big change or a loss, there's going to be very strong emotions, from shock to denial, anger and sadness, and we normalize that. You know, this is what you can expect, and give sort of a roadmap, because it does ultimately lead to acceptance of the changes, but it can take time. So we do a lot of reassuring. We provide the children's perspective. There's a 20-minute video that has kids ages 4 to 18. And these are real children, not actors, and they've been interviewed by their school counselor, and they're telling parents, these are the do's and these are the don'ts. You know, don't put me in the middle of your conflict. That is one of the really major points that we make, and we illustrate that through, we role play and act out different situations where children feel a loyalty bind or like they are very much in the middle. And then, so that's a lot about how to communicate with your child, and then communication between the parents is stressed.
Right.
So this is, we can just touch on it in the 4 hours, but it's greatly expanded upon in the handbook, which is on the website, along with the COPE brochure, which gives a lot more information about how to register for the class and the different topics that we cover.
Because I would imagine that parents probably don't even realize that the children are seeing some of the things that they're seeing and interpreting them very differently than what maybe they think is happening.
Exactly. We really stress that their antennas are very big, especially at this time of change.
Because it really is all about the children.
It is.
So, in fact, that's one of the key themes in a new video that highlights the COPE program. The video features Vermont parents as well as court personnel and program instructors, and we're going to take a moment now to listen to some of their stories.
As time went on through the class, it just, something clicked. And the things that the instructors were saying, I could see it in my kids, and it's just what they did. It allowed me to put myself in my kids' shoes. And I think that's what's really helped me the most, is being able to put myself in their shoes and really feel what they're feeling.
A big relief to have somebody sort of hand you, you know, some great tips and tools, and just a reason to get your mind away from itself. So a great reason to focus on your children, to think about them, to get off of your own grief and focus on what somebody else needs right now. Again, it can be really critical.
I've had a number of people stop in during the break in the class and say, with tear-filled eyes, I had no idea what I was doing to my child. Nobody ever told me that that's their perspective.
One of the mistakes that often happens is that they will start a conversation with each other in the presence of the child, maybe at drop-off and pickup for a visit. And they're not speaking with each other as much as they used to, and so one parent sees this as an opportunity to, because the other parent is there, to ask the parent about something that triggers some of those angry feelings. Why didn't you do this? Why aren't you doing this other thing? How come you did this? And that, all of a sudden, what starts out, what was intended and maybe initially to be a discussion, a calm discussion, all of a sudden escalates into an angry fight that happens right in front of the child, and the child ends up getting caught in the middle. So one of the things that parents need to learn to do is to not get the child caught up in the middle of their relationship with the other parent.
The kids are happier if they see that you're not arguing with your spouse, even though you may not approve of what your spouse has done, or you may feel anger towards your spouse, is to not let that anger spill onto your kids.
You know, you may watch the videos during the class and you see a child coping or not coping, and you go, I want that kid. I want that kid to be my kid. I want that response. You know, when we have a conversation, especially if your children are young like ours were when we separated, you know, I want to think 10 years from now, I'm going to have a great candid conversation at the appropriate level of information, which I thought was a great benefit to having the course. Was, how do you gauge as a parent, how much do you tell your children? You know, you don't necessarily need to run down a play-by-play, you know, blow-by-blow schematic of how things went wrong, but just understanding there is opportunity to change, you know, and present the appropriate story at the appropriate age, and that story may change in detail as the children grow older. Really gave me a lot to think about. What conversations am I having with my 4-year-old now? What will I say when he's 8? What will I say when he's 12? And know that as a parent, it is my responsibility to decide the tone of that conversation and what's appropriate for that child to know. So that was incredibly valuable for me to actually get out of the class.
You got to be able to talk to your kids, and I talk to my kids about stuff I never ever thought I would ever have to talk about. But I always left that to the others, to my spouse. But now it's like, you know, I want to stay close to these girls, and I got to be able to talk about things that I never would ever talk about before. And we do. And now that I've done that, it's just, everything is open. And they know that they can come talk to me and I can talk to them, and they have questions, and I've told them that I'll do the best to answer the question. And if I don't know, I don't know. I'm going to tell you I don't know, and I can try to find an answer, but I'm not going to lie to them, you know. And they've asked questions about the divorce, and I tell them everything that I know. I mean, there's some things they don't need to know, but I'm pretty much an open book, and they pretty much ask me anything, anytime. And we could be in the car driving somewhere, or we could be eating supper, and all of a sudden there'd be a question about the divorce. What does this mean, or what does that mean? And so we talk about it. We do a lot of talking.
One of the things that the COPE class does is it helps parents to start to see what this event through the eyes of their child. And that is so important, because the way we perceive the event as adults is very different from how the child perceives the event. So when parents understand that, then I think parents behave in a very different way, both towards their child and towards the other parent. They become much more careful about what they're saying in front of the child.
Well, that was pretty powerful.
It is.
It's amazing too that you know, it should be, I would think, a required course for most all parents, whether you're going through a divorce or not, because as you go through life, you're not an expert on child development, even when you have children.
And we all lose the handbook there when they're born. It's just something we do.
Right.
And right, the messages you hear and are things that you can use for your children, regardless if you're going through a separation or divorce.
Right. And so that clip is just an excerpt from a longer video. How can Vermonters see the whole thing?
It is on the COPE website at uvm.edu/extension/COPE. And there is a lot more to look at, and you hear more from Judge Davenport and both the mom and the dad and some other court personnel.
So Doug, maybe you could talk a little bit more about the collaborative nature of this program and who's involved and why.
Well, it started, I think, 20 plus years ago. Marcia probably has the history better than I do, but the Vermont Superior Court Family Division came to Extension, or there was an Extension agent at the time, and a Judge Amy Davenport, I believe, got into this conversation, and she asked if there was anything, and they put a program together. And then it became a mandatory thing for folks going through separation and divorce within her court, and it seemed to be working so well, it was expanded to be statewide. So it's that partnership. We provide some training and some education and support and run the program, but the judges are critically important to assess the couples that are coming before them, and whether they have children or not. If they have children, they should be going through the COPE program to help their children,
Right.
if nothing else.
Now, Marcia, how do you know that COPE works?
Well, we actually hear from judges that they can tell right away whether the parent has taken the COPE class or not, based on how they speak about their child in court. But we also have hard data. After every class, participants fill out an evaluation with a series of questions, and so we have that 90% of people feel that they benefit from the class, that they're going to do something differently in their parenting from taking the course. And then there are the anecdotal stories. In Vermont, it's a small place. Instructors run into participants at the grocery store and hear about how they changed things when they went home, or what worked for them, and what was really helpful to hear.
How can someone get more information about the COPE program?
Well, we have the website again, which is uvm.edu/extension/COPE. But we do know that sometimes folks would like to make a phone call, and we have the 800 number at 1-800-639-2130.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today. It's great information, great tools for families. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.